Hello everybody, welcome to December 2018's long bead tutorial. My tutorial this month is going to be a little different than the ones that you may be accustomed to, and they're not like Jeannie's or Marcy Lamberson's or the other tutorials, sorry. What I'm going to be showing you today is some of the tricks that can be done for beginners who want to try this and experiment with this without having a bead at the end that necessarily is beautiful. I want you to learn techniques on this one and experiment with this one and basically do different things and maybe make some really ugly beads, but learn how the glass moves. That's what we're going to learn today, is how to get the glass to go where you want it to go, not necessarily pattern or sculpture or whatnot, which is fantastic and which is the ultimate goal. But today we're going to learn how to move the glass. Before I do that, I want to show you some alternatives to some of the tools that we normally think of as lampwork tools. Sometimes when you're a beginner and you're experimenting and you're on a budget, which I'm always on a budget, I am creative about the tools that I make, use, find. I love to find things. Last month we did marbles. And with the marbles, I did not make this by the way, but with marbles, sometimes they get away from us. They roll away. And there are different ways to catch them. Once you've got it stopped, how do you pick it up? Well, this is an ice pick. It's an old gadget when people had ice in buckets. You could grab it and put it in your drink. It just happens to fit marbles of just about any size, which is really kind of cool if your marbles get away from you. So that's a thought. Some of the other things that with the long beads, you need to have a long marber to work with. The Japanese kote, which is not an expensive tool, but if you don't know if this is something for you, before you go and order tools in or set up a longing for them or whatever, you can find tools at yard sales, in your garage, resale shops. I have a fabulous little resale shop that I go to, and he always has stuff. This is some sort of a masonry trowel, but it would not be a good choice. It would give you the roll, but you can see it's all bumpy and pitted. I took my wire grinder to it and I could not get it smooth to save my life. So I wanted to show you that that's available, and it's shaped like a kote and would be safe to use, but that surface probably would not do you any good. So I went looking at my little junk shop and I found some goodies. I paid $1 a piece for these, and this one is kind of neat. It has an edge. It's obviously designed for doing the outside edge of, a wall or door or something. You can get your long roll on it, but with the edge you could maybe fix your end. It's just a thought, really. I wouldn't use it that way, but if it's the only thing you could find, it would work. It does give you that long roll that everybody wants. This tool, though designed perfectly, is much too big. You would have to be making ginormous beads for this. But the cool part is the way it's designed. It's all metal, it's welded, so there's no bumps, there's nothing, no screw marks. It's perfectly smooth. You have a nice insulated handle. It is wood, so clearly you would not want to put it in your torch. Not that you would, but this, again, you can see there's still sheetrock of some sort on there. This would give you a fantastic long roll, and you could get some seriously long beads out of that. Paid $1. So something to think about. I have seen those in stores. They were $40, which is about 4 times more than a kote would cost, but for $1 it was worth showing. Many of you will have marble marble shapers left over from last month. Something to think about with those is the back. Turn them over. Many of your tools, brass, graphite, we all look at the front. Few of us look at the sides or the back. You could lay this right down and use this back part to get that long roll that you saw Marcy using, and Jeannie Cox as well. So you already have these tools on your bench. Feel free to use them. Put that down. CG bead rollers, also A lot of your graphite rollers will have the back side is nice and smooth, and that's why she gives you these spaces here so you can do different things, but the back, always use your tools. Anything, your brass tools, whatever. Be creative in what you do. This was a door jamb from some sort of commercial building. It's stainless steel, heavy as all get out. My brother polished it for me, but you can see it's got kind of the beveled edge. This is my favorite marver. I can work with this all day long, and it doesn't get hot. It's big enough, it disperses the heat. It's a fabulous thing. Didn't cost me anything. It was in a scrap heap. I use coasters for my frit. These are drink coasters. They fit Val Cox's frit beautifully. So that's something you can do, and the neat thing is they're stackable so that you can have multiple choices of frit on your desk, and they're protected from stray pieces of glass flying about. I use an empty one and I put it on top, and it keeps my frit from getting contaminated by rods. For those of you who do beadwork, you'll recognize these. Also good for frit, but you have to be really careful. It has to be kind of a small bead that you're working with, and these can get flung around pretty easily. They're kind of light, but in a pinch, they work. Ashtrays. Ashtrays work well, little deep, but if you're working with small beads, doesn't matter. These are, you put them under the leg of a chair to protect the floor. They're tempered, incredibly tough. They're a little deep, but they work really well for pixie dust. So those are all things. Be creative, use the tools around you. We're surrounded by things that we don't think of until somebody says, hey, you can use that for that. In this, what we do, our craft, if it's metal, look at it. Can you use it? That's how I look at it. Okay, what we're going to do today is learn how to make a long bead. Long beads are used primarily in beadable items. You can use them in jewelry, make sliders and whatnot, but they make great gift items. These are beadable items that you can get. You unscrew one end generally and slide the bead on, and any decorations you want to add to it, other beads, so on and so forth, and you screw it back on with a little bit of glue, and voila, you have a gift that people love. You can do matching sets for people for wedding gifts or whatever. I think this is a bottle opener. I have no idea where I got this from, but it's been out of the package so long that it's kind of sketchy. The metal has deteriorated. So I strongly recommend that you keep your items in the plastic until you're ready to actually bead them and gift them. So here's one that I did, and you can see I added some silver beads because the bead wasn't quite long enough, but you have to be careful. I was not paying attention when I assembled it, which is kind of a good thing because you get to see. When I screwed it down, too much pressure was applied and the bead cracked all the way around. So obviously the bead was already under stress, and I went and torqued it down and poof, it's cracked. Fortunately, this was for me, so it didn't matter. I've been using it anyways. This is a stylus. Something to keep in mind, if your bead is too big and you want somebody to use it, it's going to be uncomfortable. They're not going to want to use it because it's too heavy. So if you're going to make a really long bead, try to keep it light. I know that seems contradictory, but try to keep it light, keep your extra decorations light, and that way it's not heavier, because this end is light, and yeah, it was borderline, so I kept it for myself. But anyways, be careful when you torque them down. You don't want to break them. That's not the goal here. Okay, so let's get to burning stuff. A little trick: when you have something that you want to get a specific size on, you can measure it, take the time, measure it, then measure on your mandrel, and then use a graphite pencil, and very, very carefully, very lightly, without breaking the bead release, mark the mandrel all the way around to the length that you want the bead to be. It's important that you use real graphite. Number 2 works really well, whatever. And there we go. The idea behind this is that graphite will stay on that bead release and it will glow. That's the cool part. Once you put it in the flame, it will actually start to glow so that you can see, I didn't really put enough there, but you can see it kind of flaked off. I hope you can see that, where it actually, the graphite glows. So when you put the glass on, and that will stay there the whole time that you're working, and you can move the glass right up to it, and you'll know exactly where you need to be. So that's pretty cool. When you make your first long beads, do yourself a favor and use soft glasses like white or ivory. The reason for this is you want to be able to move the glass, and if you're using a really stiff glass, you're going to find yourself getting a little bit frustrated. Don't go for a long wrap to begin with, because at least not on this bead. You want to for other beads, but on this first long bead that you make, what I want you to do is start with a barrel, because we're going to be moving glass. Some of you may be already very adept at this, and that's cool. Hopefully you'll learn a little something, because we're going to do 2 or 3 different techniques on this one bead. Like I said, this probably isn't going to be a pretty bead by the time we're done, but like I said, we're not going for pretty here. We're going for technique. This is an ugly bead. What I want you to do is make a canvas, and long beads are the perfect canvas. I'm going to turn this torch up here in a minute, because this is just not cutting it. Don't worry about shape. Don't worry about making it real pretty right now. That is not our goal. Get this puppy cooking. There we go. That's one of the things I like about dual fuel torches. I used to work on a hothead, and I loved my hothead, but I have to say, I like being able to turn my torch up and down. There's a lot to be said for that, and you can with a hothead if you don't mind not hearing anything. But here we go. Okay, so ugly bumpy bead, now nice and smooth. I personally am a spinner. I like to stay in one place. It's because I use my L marver, but I realize that's just a little off screen. I'm a spinner, but when I'm done and I want to get that nice smooth roll, that's when I go for that. But right now, what I want you to notice is the size of this bead, okay? Only about 3/4 of the roller is covered. So we have a barrel. When you have a hothead or any other type of torch that has difficulty covering the whole bead, that's okay. What you do, you keep your mandrel hot. Get your mandrel nice and glowing, okay? Get your bead hot, then ignore it and go to the other side. You don't have to rush like I did. I was just making a point. But go over here and work at this end. While that other end is nice and hot, you can ignore it. You don't have to worry about it. Just get your glass on here. You're working on this end, tootling along. A little bit of insurance never hurts. Okay. If you ever decide to make beads in the shape of bones, this is a good way to go. A little insurance. Now, get your glass nice and molten. Let it stretch down. Gravity is your friend when you're working with glass. And spin it or roll it, whichever technique you're comfortable with. Keep one end cool and stiff, one end soft and molten. The idea behind this is that the cool end is going to help dictate the size and keep your bead even. There we go. Okay. So we're just going to even that out. Now, remember, if the glass is glowing, it's going. I don't know where I heard that, but I like it. And in order for the glass to even out, it has to be nice and warm. And the white, which is why we're using it, shows you where it's glowing, where it's going. See the size of the bead? Now almost the width of the marver. Okay. Because I'm a spinner, you can see that the bead is not perfectly even. I could spend a lot of time fixing that by adding glass here or doing the rolling motion. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but I'm not going to get into that. What I want to do is do the other end and show you. See, we used a little gravity and we used a little roll. This other end, we're going to use almost strictly gravity. And we're going to put our insurance heat that mandrel up, get it nice and hot so that it transfers its heat right up. Then we're going to ignore that end and we're going to put glass on over here. Can you see the mark still glowing? It tells me where I need my bead to be, how long I need it to be. So we're going to keep adding glass. We're going to put a good glob on here because we're going to move this out. I would normally move down the mandrel, but I'm exaggerating this so that you can see what I'm doing. Here we go. Nice big fat ring of glass. Okay. Now, here's the cool part. Don't know why I heated that up, but we're going to heat that, a little insurance. We're going to heat it really hot and let it just slide on down. Gravity is going to do its thing. It's going to pull that. I'm not heating the bead, I'm heating the glass that I just added. Got to keep spinning, just keep spinning, just keep spinning. There we go. And let it slide down. Keeping it really angled, the glass will slide right down the mandrel. And because it's white, I can see when I've gotten to my mark. And I have exceeded my mark, and that's okay. Like I said, this is going to be an ugly bead. And I'm going to tip it back to put some of it back where it came from. But I want a nice puckered end. So keep working with it. Get it soft. Remember your other end. It's gotten cool at this point. Long beads, insurance. And this is what I want you to do. Play with the movement of the glass. Long beads are about gravity, about temperature, about learning to move the glass from here to there. This is a great way to get yourself ready for implosions, believe it or not. You can actually do a double implosion by working one end and then working the other and using gravity to pull it down from this way to that way to this way. And you get a long stretched look on the inside, like two flowers going away from each other. It's a really kind of a neat look. By the end of this bead, what we're going to do is we're going to do a gravity swirl. Because when you use gravity to stretch a bead like this, a lot of times you get a thin center, which is cool. If that's the look you're going for, you could do a little silhouette, you could do a goddess, you could do, a thin otter, whatever appeals to you. What we're going to do is we're going to add glass in stripes and we're going to do a gravity swirl. Now, using gravity, you could keep stretching this bead out and stretching it out, but you need it to be at least as thick on either side as the mandrel is. If you go thinner than that, the bead obviously is going to be very fragile. So you kind of don't really want to use that as your formula with all beads. I'd like a nice pucker at this end, so I'm going to heat it up a bit and let it slide down just a touch, just a touch. There it is. So there's your pucker. That's how you get a nice pucker. You can do that at either end. We're going to cap it off, so I'm not going to worry too much. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some stripes, because I want to teach you a gravity swirl. Long beads are the best place to practice gravity swirls. And they're really addicting, just so you're aware. The stringer needs to be long enough so that you can see how one end stays. That'll become apparent in a minute. I didn't describe that well, but you'll see what I mean. Here we go. So there's the red. Tuck down my ends a little bit. Like I said, we're not going for pretty, we're going for speed, we're going for technique. I want you to see what to do, and then I want you to play with it. Have fun with it. Glass, for me, glass is therapy. If it becomes work, well, yeah, it's not the same. To me, it's therapy. It's where I go to get away from everybody, all the dogs. It's my space. People avoid me when I'm on the torch. I get very cranky. So, make it pretty. Heat one end, smooth it in. Come on now. Let it melt in. There we go. Now we're getting there. Using the other end to keep it uniform. Work your way up. Okay. Now, while that end cools, I'm going to heat the other end. just so that I can smooth this stuff in. But I don't want to change the thickness. I like the thickness that it is. That's why I keep one end cool, so it does not change it. There we go. I love white glass. You get such great contrast, and it's so amiable. It just lets you do whatever. There we go. Okay, so I would say that's inch and a half, which, you know, for beginning, that's a good place to go. Aim for 1.5 inches to 2 inches max. Most of you won't have bead reamers that'll go much longer than that anyways, so you don't want to have a bead you can't clean. All right, we're going to gravity swirl. What that means, I'm going to heat just the center and keep spinning the same direction and allow the glass to start melting and dripping down, and you're going to catch it and spin it. Go slow, take your time. If it goes too fast, back it out, but keep spinning. Just keep spinning, just keep spinning. Yep, going a little fast. Okay, so I'm going to back it out just so that I can control the spin. There we go. A little more heat. Now you can do this a lot or a little. You can spin it all the way around if you so choose, which is really kind of cool, a lot of motion. I find that I go about 1/3 of the way around. There we go. Just to show that there's a spin. When you slide it, you want to go with the spin because you don't want to back it up. Just, there you go. The beginnings of a basic gravity swirl. Now, if you want, you can do like Jeannie Cox was doing. You can do the swirls, do them in an opposite direction from your gravity swirl. That looks pretty cool. If you do a gravity swirl with frit, that's a lot of fun. All kinds of things you can do with this. I just wanted to show you a simple, fast technique that is really easy on long beads that is so much fun to do. So anyways, there's your gravity swirl. Now, long beads often look cool with a cap on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a bit of a cap on each end. Black is always fun, but in this case, it's the holidays here in the States. So we're going to do, we've done red and green. We're going to add a red cap just around the end. There you go. The other end is cool, so it's going to maintain my thickness. Swirl it. There we go. Like I said, I'm a spinner. I forget to roll them out. I'm a spinner. I use my L marver. Sorry, I already said that. There we go. Getting there. This is also a good time to adjust your ends. Make sure they're nice and even. There we go. So you pull your end in. That's where white is nice. When you push your end in, the white kind of gets out of the way and lets you without puckering up too much. There we go. Remember our insurance heat. I always forget that. There we go. All right, and then a red cap on the other end. Now this one really should have had a little bit more swirl to it. I should have gone more, but like I said, I'm going for technique here. I want you to see how it's done without getting bored. There we go. All right. Try these with frit. Frit is great on long beads because you can do so much with it. You can use your tungsten pick and you can rake it around. You can encase it. You can do all kinds of swirls. Long beads are great canvas fast. A lot of people think you have to do a lentil or something in order to get a long canvas of some sort that you can work on and practice your Mirini. Try long beads. It doesn't take anywhere near as much glass. You get a lot of surface, and yes, they're kind of tight, but you don't need a lot of room to practice Mirini. And it's just a great way to put things in and have a great canvas really quick so that you can get to learning the skill rather than wasting a lot of glass. Now, see that one I've kind of shortened it up, and I didn't mean to, so I was jabbering away. Just going to stretch that out. There we go. Dun, da, da, da. And there we have a gravity swirl. When it's all said and done, it will look like that. This is one I did a little bit ago for you guys, and kind of cheap and quick and fast, but there it is. A fun one that I like to do, this is 2 colors, and then I used a frit in the middle, and I used a twisty to do the swirls, and it blends the whole thing together. I just wanted you to kind of see the different varieties of things you can do. This is more of the Christmas frit. I did kind of a tornado thing. It wasn't deep enough, but it's still kind of cool. This is a frit and drag, where I used some frit and my tungsten pick, and I put it in and just swirled it and dragged it and then flattened it out. I like doing the dragging, which is kind of how you get a hollyberry look like this. Not Haleyberry, but hollyberry. You do the green dots, drag right through them and make the branch, and then add your little red dots as you go around. You can put green dots with a red dot in the center, a little cluster of berries. Up close, it's, you know, not pretty, but from a distance, it's quite obvious what that is. Again, that was, 10-15 minute bead. So anyways, there's some tips, there's some tricks. Have some fun with it. Definitely look around your environment and find out what items that you can use. This is a mason jar lid, believe it or not. You can use these things all around you and make tools until you decide which tools you really want to invest in. Thank you for joining me, and happy holidays.